Take a deep breath and listen. This is not random. This is not just an algorithm.
There is a haunting specificity to the way your life unfolds, a distinct and often unnerving rhythm that refuses to let you blend into the white noise of the world around you. You have felt it in the quiet moments of the night, and in the chaotic noise of your busiest days, the sensation that you are being watched, guarded, and hemmed in by an unseen hand. It is not always a comforting feeling. In fact, there are seasons where it feels maddeningly restrictive. You look around and see others living with a kind of casual freedom that seems completely denied to you. They make reckless choices and seem to bounce back without a scratch. They compromise their integrity for a quick gain and appear to prosper. They drift into gray areas, blend into crowds, and navigate life with a lightness that you simply do not possess. But you are different. When you try to step off the path, even by an inch, you feel an immediate, jarring friction in your spirit. When you try to be casual about things that matter, a heaviness settles in your chest that you cannot shake. This is not a coincidence. It is not an overactive imagination or a symptom of anxiety. This is the evidence of a divine signature. You are living under the weight of the seal of God. To understand why your life feels this way, you have to understand what a seal actually is. In the ancient world, a seal was not merely a decoration. It was the ultimate legal assertion of ownership. When a king sent a decree, he pressed his signet ring into hot wax, leaving an impression that carried his full authority. That mark said two things to anyone who saw it. This belongs to the king, and this is under the king's protection. If you are sensing a resistance to your own autonomy, it is because that spiritual transaction has already taken place in your soul. God has not just blessed you, He has claimed you. He has walked into the chaotic marketplace of humanity, pointed directly at your spirit and said, "This one is mine." This divine claim fundamentally alters the physics of your existence. It changes the atmosphere you walk into and the shadows you cast. The reason you feel a tension that others do not feel is that you are no longer the property of yourself. This is a radical, terrifying, and beautiful truth. You do not belong to your parents, you do not belong to your boss, you do not belong to the culture, and you certainly do not belong to the expectations of the crowd. You are a marked vessel. This ownership is the source of the pressure you feel. It is why you cannot get away with things. Have you ever noticed that when you try to do what everyone else is doing, you get caught immediately? Or you feel a sickness in your gut that ruins the experience before it even begins? That is the immune system of the seal fighting off a foreign infection. Because you are sealed, you are held to a blueprint you didn't draw. You might have plans, 5-year goals, and visions of how your future should look, but if those plans contradict the purpose for which you were marked, they will crumble. It can feel like failure, but it is actually course correction. The seal acts like a tether. You can run, you can strive, you can try to craft a life that looks like the American dream, or whatever version of success is currently trending. But if it takes you away from the king's intention, the tether will snap you back. Sometimes that snap is painful. It knocks the wind out of you. It leaves you on the floor wondering why God is fighting you. But He isn't fighting you. He is fighting for the version of you that He designed. He is fighting for the investment He has made. This mark is invisible to the human eye, yet the spiritual realm sees it as clearly as a lighthouse in a storm. It dictates your reality. It is the reason why you often feel like a stranger in places that should feel like home. You walk into a room, and the dynamic shifts. You try to engage in gossip or low-level behavior to bond with a group, but the words turn to ash in your mouth. You feel a physical repulsion to things that seem to nourish others. This separation isn't because you are judgmental or arrogant. It is because the seal has altered your spiritual DNA. You are a citizen of a different kingdom, operating behind enemy lines, and your spirit knows it even when your mind forgets. There is a profound heaviness to this calling. We often talk about God's favor as if it's purely addition, more money, more access, more joy. But the seal is also about subtraction and restriction. It is the holy no that echoes over your life. It is the locked gate. It is the silence when you demand answers. It is the terrifying realization that your life is not a democracy, it is a monarchy, and you are not the one on the throne. You are experiencing the unmistakable weight of divine ownership, and, while it may feel like a burden right now, it is actually the greatest security a human being can possess. You are being kept. You are being watched. You are being held by a grip that refuses to let you go, even when you try to wiggle free. This fierce, possessive grip does more than just hold you. It actively rearranges the landscape of your life, often through the brutal, confusing mechanism of the closed door. You have stood in front of these doors, haven't you? You have pounded on them until your knuckles bled, begging for entry. It was the relationship you were certain was the one. The career opportunity that seemed perfectly tailored to your skills. The social circle where you desperately wanted to belong. When those doors slammed shut, or worse, when they were locked silently from the other side, you felt rejected. You felt like you had failed. But from the vantage point of the seal, what looked like rejection was actually the sacred architecture of divine protection. God is obsessed with the integrity of the vessel he has sealed, because he intends to pour something volatile and powerful into you. His spirit, his influence, his truth. He cannot afford for you to be contaminated. And make no mistake, contamination is rarely dramatic. It doesn't always look like a villain offering you a deal with the devil. Most often, contamination looks like compromise. It looks like a good enough relationship that slowly drains your spiritual vitality. It looks like a job that pays well but requires you to silence your conscience. It looks like friends who don't necessarily drag you into darkness, but who anchor you in mediocrity, keeping you tethered to a version of yourself that you have outgrown. The seal acts as a high-security spiritual filtration system. When you are marked, you become vibrationally incompatible with anything that threatens your destiny. This is why people suddenly drift away from you without a clear explanation. There was no fight, no blowout argument, just a sudden, chilling distance. You might blame yourself, analyzing your texts and replaying conversations, wondering where you messed up. You didn't mess up. You just leveled up. The atmosphere of your life changed because the seal heated up, and those who were not built for that temperature had to exit. They didn't leave because they were bad people. They left because they were unauthorized personnel in the construction zone of your future. Think of it like a sterile surgical field. Before a surgeon cuts into a patient to heal them, the room is scrubbed. Access is restricted. You cannot bring street clothes into an operating room. In the same way, God is performing open-heart surgery on your destiny, and He is ruthlessly sterilizing your environment. He is removing the germs of doubt, the bacteria of distraction, and the viral load of other people's opinions. The isolation you feel, that lonely Saturday night, that season where your phone stops ringing, is not a punishment. It is protective custody. You are being hidden in the cleft of the rock while the danger passes by, danger you often didn't even know was hunting you. There is a terrifying precision to this separation. If God had allowed you to walk through that open door you cried over, you would have walked right into a trap that would have cost you years of your life. If He had let you marry that person, you might have gained a partner but lost your purpose. The seal is proactive. It sees the end from the beginning. It reads the fine print on contracts you are about to sign and sees the hidden clauses that would enslave you. So God shuts the door. He creates a glitch in the system. He causes the deal to fall through. He hardens someone's heart against you so they push you away. It feels violent in the moment, like a rug being pulled out from under your feet. But it is the violence of a lifeguard tackling a drowning swimmer who is trying to swim out to sea. You must stop interpreting this solitude as abandonment. It is, in fact, the highest form of intimacy. God is clearing the room so He can speak to you without interruption. He is stripping away the noise so you can learn to recognize the sound of your own name when He calls it. This is the holy separation. It is the process of being set apart. The word holy literally means cut off or separate. To be sealed is to be cut off from the common flow of the world so you can be preserved for a specific, uncommon function. This creates a friction in your soul, a tension between your human desire to fit in and your spiritual mandate to stand out. You see others blending effortlessly, joining groups, adopting the latest mindsets, and moving in herds. But when you try to join the herd, you feel that check in your spirit, a scratchy, uncomfortable warning. You are like a puzzle piece that almost fits but has been slightly reshaped by the hand of God, making you unable to lock into the picture of the world around you. You are protected from the comfort of the crowd, because the crowd is often walking off a cliff. The closed doors are not there to keep you from success. They are there to keep you from sinking. They are the bulkheads on a ship, sealing off compartments to keep the vessel afloat when the storms come. You are being preserved, protected, and prepared in the quiet, sterile silence of the closed door. This protective isolation inevitably turns inward, shifting the battleground from your circumstances to the very temperature of your soul. This is where the seal becomes most intrusive and, frankly, most exhausting. The burden of a consecrated conscience. You have likely noticed that you have lost the luxury of living casually. There is a zero-tolerance policy written into the code of your spirit that activates the moment you drift even slightly off course. It is a strange and often frustrating phenomenon. You look around and see people operating in gray areas with seemingly no consequences. They tell white lies to smooth over awkward situations. They cut corners at work to get ahead. They harbor petty grudges, or they indulge in habits that numb them out. And they seem fine. They sleep soundly. They prosper. But you? The moment you dip your toe into those same waters, your internal alarm system screams. You try to tell that small lie, and it gets stuck in your throat like a piece of dry bread. You try to harbor that grudge, and it turns into a physical sickness in your gut, draining your energy until you are forced to forgive just to regain your own peace. You try to watch what everyone else is watching or laugh at the jokes everyone else finds funny, and instead of amusement, you feel a deep, heavy grief. This is the burden of the seal. It is a spiritual gag reflex. God has ruined your taste for the things that poison your soul. You simply cannot enjoy the mud anymore. No matter how hard you try to convince yourself it's just a little dirt. This is not because God is a tyrant waiting to smack your hand. It is because He is a refiner who is obsessed with the purity of the gold. When you are sealed, you are placed in the refining fire. This fire is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to consume everything in you that is not of Him. It burns away the ego, the pride, the people-pleasing, the hidden manipulative tendencies, and the reliance on your own cleverness. And let's be honest, the fire hurts. It is hot, it is relentless, and it often feels like you are dying. But you are not dying. The imposter you constructed to survive in the world is dying. The true you, the sealed, eternal version, is emerging from the ash. Because you carry the seal, God holds you to a terrifyingly higher standard. It feels unfair. You might cry out, "Why can they do that and I can't? Why is my leash so short?" The answer is in the assignment. You don't put high-octane, jet fuel restrictions on a lawnmower. You put them on an F-16 fighter jet. You are not a lawnmower. You are built for spiritual altitudes and velocities that require absolute structural integrity. If you had a crack in your character at ground level, it wouldn't matter much. But where God is taking you, a crack in your character would cause you to disintegrate. The pressure at the top is different. The scrutiny is higher. The warfare is more intense. God loves you too much to let you ascend with a hidden fault line that would ultimately destroy you. So, He presses on your conscience. He wakes you up at 3 a.m. to apologize for a tone of voice you used 3 days ago. He haunts you about a $5 mistake until you make it right. He creates a holy friction in your life whenever you settle for less than his best. This is the Holy Spirit acting as the relentless editor of your story, striking out lines that don't belong, highlighting chapters that need rewriting, and refusing to let you publish a life that is full of errors. This intensity often makes you feel like you are going crazy. You wonder why you can't just chill out like everyone else. But deep down, you know the truth. You know that this sensitivity is a gift. It is the guidance system that keeps you from crashing. It is the rumble strip on the highway jolting you awake before you drift into oncoming traffic. When you feel that conviction, that heavy weight on your chest, realize that it is the hand of God steering you. He is keeping your heart soft in a world that is desperate to make it hard. He is keeping your eyes clear in a culture that thrives on blindness. The seal demands that you walk uprightly, not for applause, but for alignment. You stop doing the right thing so that people will see you. You start doing the right thing because you cannot bear the separation from God that comes when you don't. Your obedience shifts from duty to desperation. You need His presence more than you need the world's approval. You need His peace more than you need the temporary high of compromise. This process is stripping you of your autonomy, yes, but it is clothing you in authority. You are becoming a vessel that can carry the heavy weight of glory without cracking. The fire is not rejecting you, it is proving you. It is the evidence that you are real gold, worthy of the King's treasury. This internal consecration produces an external byproduct that is perhaps the most mysterious and empowering aspect of this spiritual authority. You may not feel powerful. In fact, in the midst of your refining, you often feel frail, exposed, and barely hanging on. But in the unseen realm, your life carries a terrifying weight. The seal functions like a badge of office. When a police officer steps into a chaotic intersection and raises a hand, 18-wheeler trucks grind to a halt. They don't stop because the officer is physically stronger than the truck. They stop because of the authority represented by the badge. The seal is your badge. It signals to every spiritual force, every chaotic atmosphere, and every opposing intent that you are backed by the full power of the kingdom. This explains the strange paradox of your existence, the unwarranted resistance you face. You have likely wondered, why is it that every time I try to move forward, all hell breaks loose? Why does it feel like I am fighting for every inch of ground while others just glide through life? You assume this struggle means you are doing something wrong, or that God has forgotten you. But flip the script. The resistance is not proof that you are off track. It is confirmation that you are a threat. You do not lock the doors of an empty house. Thieves do not break into vaults that hold nothing of value. The enemy does not waste ammunition on targets that are not dangerous. The intensity of the battle against you is a direct calculation of the potential within you. The seal has marked you as a high-value target because you are carrying a destiny that will dismantle strongholds of darkness. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts not because you are loud, but because your spirit takes up space. You bring light into dark places, and darkness is allergic to light. The sudden conflicts, the unexpected crises, the irrational hostility from people who barely know you, these are the flinching reactions of a world that is uncomfortable with the authority you carry. You are disrupting the status quo just by breathing. But here is the other side of that coin, the side that should make you stand tall even when your knees are shaking. Supernatural preservation. The same seal that attracts resistance guarantees your survival. Look back at your timeline. Really look at it. There are moments in your history that defy logic. There are accidents that should have maimed you but left you without a scratch. There are illnesses that should have taken you out. There are periods of depression or heartbreak that were so black, so heavy you thought your mind would snap, but it didn't. There were financial cliffs you went over, yet somehow you landed on your feet. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is the preservation of the seal. In the ancient texts, there is a concept of a hedge of protection, a boundary line drawn by God that destruction cannot cross. The seal acts as this boundary. It is the spiritual equivalent of the blood on the doorposts during Passover. The angel of death, the spirit of ruin, the forces of calamity. They may come to your neighborhood. They may come to your front porch. But when they see the seal, they must pass over. They have no jurisdiction here. You have been kept. You have been hidden in the shadow of the Almighty. There were conversations happening in rooms you weren't in, plotting your downfall that suddenly fell apart. There were traps set for your feet that were dismantled before you even arrived. You are like a person walking through a minefield where the triggers have been deactivated just seconds before your foot hit the ground. You didn't see the angel pushing you out of the way. You just thought you missed the bus. You didn't hear the command that silenced your accusers. You just thought they lost interest. But in the archives of heaven, those moments are recorded as divine interventions. This is why you are indestructible until your purpose is fulfilled. This is not an arrogance. It is a theological fact of the seal. God protects what He invests in. He is not a careless owner who leaves his prized possessions out in the rain to rust. If you are still drawing breath, it is because the enemy was not given permission to finish you. He might have been allowed to sift you, to test you, to touch your circumstances, but he was strictly forbidden from touching your soul. You are fireproof, not because you don't walk through fire, but because the fire cannot consume the substance of who you are. So, when you feel overwhelmed by the battles you are fighting, remember the battles you have already survived. You are a walking miracle of preservation. The scars you carry are not signs of defeat, they are testimony. They prove that you went into the pit and came out. They prove that you faced the storm and the house stood firm. The seal is your shield. It surrounds you with a favor that deflects the fatal blows. You may get bruised, you may get tired, but you will not be destroyed. You are held by a hand that is stronger than any storm, and that hand has closed around you with a grip of eternal, unshakable love. You are safe, not because the world is safe, but because you are sealed. But the seal offers you something far greater than mere safety. It offers you the absolute ironclad guarantee of completion. This is the final and most powerful dimension of the mark you carry, the inevitable fulfillment of eternal purpose. When God places His seal on a life, He is not just tagging it, He is signing a contract. He is binding Himself to the process of your becoming. You need to let that sink deep into your anxious mind. God has staked His own reputation on your finish line. He is not an architect who abandons a building halfway up the scaffold because he ran out of resources or lost interest. If He broke ground on your life, He will cut the ribbon. This is why you can stop panicking about the timeline. We live in a culture that worships speed. Instant downloads, overnight success stories, 30 under 30 inches lists. When you look at your own life, you might feel like you are falling behind. You see the delays, the detours, and the long silent seasons where nothing seems to be moving, and you interpret them as evidence that you have missed your window. But the seal dictates a different rhythm. You are not building a roadside shack that goes up in a day and blows over in a storm. You are being built into a cathedral, and the higher and more intricate the structure is meant to be, the deeper the foundation must be dug. Those seasons where you felt buried. You weren't buried, you were planted. You were undergoing the necessary dark work of root development. God was pouring concrete into the bedrock of your character so that when the weight of your destiny finally lands on you, you won't collapse under it. The seal is the promise that the construction will not stop until the design matches the designer's vision perfectly. As this reality takes hold, you will notice a profound shift in what you actually desire. This is the reordering effect of the seal. In the beginning, you probably wanted what everyone else wants. Comfort, recognition, a little bit of fame, a lot of money, and a life free of trouble. But as the seal has worked its way through your veins, Those shallow ambitions have likely started to taste like cardboard. You don't just want to be successful anymore. You want to be significant. You don't just want to make a living. You want to make a difference that echoes after your lungs stop drawing air. This shift can be disorienting. You might find yourself walking away from opportunities that look like gold to the world, because your spirit detects that they are actually fool's gold. You might turn down the promotion that requires you to sell your soul. You might step back from the spotlight to serve in the shadows, because you have realized that the applause of heaven matters more than the applause of the crowd. This is not you losing your drive. This is you finding your true north. God is realigning your compass from temporary gain to eternal legacy. He is weaning you off the cheap sugar of worldly validation and feeding you the meat of divine purpose. So stand up. Shake off the dust of your confusion. Look at your life through the lens of the seal. The tension you feel is not a sign that things are falling apart. It is the tension of the arrow being pulled back against the bowstring. The further back you are pulled, the more resistance you feel, the more aimless the waiting seems. But it is all potential energy being stored up for the release. You are being aimed at a target that your natural eyes cannot even see yet. Do not resent the mark. Do not envy the unsealed life. Yes, they may seem to run free, but they are often running in circles. You are walking a narrow path, but it is a path that leads to a throne. Every closed door was a guardrail. Every moment of isolation was a classroom. Every fire was a kiln. Every attack was a confirmation of your rank. It was all necessary. It was all intentional. It was all part of the sealing. You are coming into a season where the things that have been worked in you deeply are about to work out of you powerfully. The confusion is clearing. The purpose is solidifying. You are not a random accident floating through space. You are a calculated, protected, and authorized weapon of light in a dark world. Walk with your head high. Not because you are perfect, but because you are claimed. When you walk into a room, carry the atmosphere of your king. When you speak, speak with the confidence of someone who knows who signs their checks. When you face a giant, smile, because you know you are backed by an army that has never lost a war. The world may not understand you. Your family may not get you. You may not even fully understand yourself sometimes. But the transaction is settled. The wax is cool. The impression is clear. You are not overlooked. You are not abandoned. You are not unfinished. You are His. You are loved. You are sealed.